This setup can be completed across all platforms. In order to deploy to Android from LiveCode, there are various dependencies that need to be installed before we can do this. I'll go through these now. First, we need to install the Java Development Kit. Most Mac systems already come pre-installed with a usable JDK. In the case of both Windows and Linux, you'll need to download the applicable installers from the following website. Here, you'll see all the available JDK versions for all platforms. So for the case of Windows, once this JDK is downloaded, you would install it like any other program, and with Linux, you can just extract the folder to a workable directory, for example, your Documents folder. After this is finished, the next step is that you will want to install the Android SDK. You'll be able to acquire the Android SDK for your platform from the following link. You'll see a big blue button here that says download the SDK, but we don't want to use that. We want to use the option of use an existing IDE, since we'll be using LiveCode. So here, you'll see you'll be able to download the SDK tools for Mac, and for Windows and Linux it should say the same, but if it does not, you can still download it from the bottom section here, in the SDK tools only. So after this is downloaded, in the case of the Mac platform in Linux, you'll be able to simply extract the SDK to a workable directory. So in my case, I've used my Documents folder, as you can see here. For Windows systems, you're presented with an installer instead of manually unzipping the Android SDK. Please run this installer and follow the on-screen instructions. You'll be given the option of where you'd like to install the SDK. Next, we're going to move on to installing the required Android SDK packages that are required to deploy to Android from within LiveCode. First, we'll want to launch the Android Package Manager. To do this in all platforms, navigate to the root SDK folder, Tools, and then you want to run the Android script file here. This should then launch the Android Package Manager. In order to deploy to Android from LiveCode, certain packages must be installed. More specifically, the Android 2.2 package and Android SDK build tools. So we'll first start by selecting these. So here we have our tools. So just tick. First I'll just minimize these. So here we have our tools that we want to tick. And we also want to tick the Android 2.2 package. Next, I would also recommend installing some newer packages as well. These will just allow you to create newer AVDs or Android virtual devices. So I'll select 2.3.3 and 4.1 as well. After these have been selected, you must select Install these packages. You're presented with this screen. You may have more options than me, as I already have some of the packages installed. So all we want to do is select the main item and then accept the licenses for each of these items. And then hit install. The time taken to do this process will vary depending on connection speed. Once all of these packages have downloaded, we'll want to create an Android Virtual Device, or AVD. To do this, we can navigate to Tools, Manage AVDs. This option is the same in Linux, and it's the same in Windows, but the tool menu will be around this area. So once we load up the Android Virtual Device Manager, you can see that I've already created some AVDs, but I'll now show you the process of creating a brand new one. So we start with selecting New, give it a name, Summer AVD, and we'll select a screen size for the virtual device. So for simplicity, I'm just going to select 480 by 800. Then we want a target value. So I'd recommend everything above 2.2 in here because there's a known bug in the Android emulator which causes a black screen with any AVDs created with 2.2. So just Android 2.3.3 should be enough. And CPU, we're on ARM. Intel Atom is not supported in the LiveCode yet, so ARM will be fine. Leave these as defaults. Keep the RAM as 512. Internal storage 200. We'll just put 200 in the SD card size as well. I'd also recommend selecting the snapshot option, as this will make loading the AVDs a lot quicker. So select OK. This gives us confirmation, and you should see the new AVD in this list. To start the AVD, all we need to do is select it and then hit start. I'll give you some launch options, and then all you need to do is hit launch. If all goes well, you should see a virtual device running like this. Now, all we need to do is set up LiveCode to deploy to this simulator. So if I just minimize these for now, close this, load LiveCode again. And go back to its preferences. Then mobile support. And you'll see here that I already have an entry for my Android SDK. Just going to clear this and go through it with you. So in here, we want to navigate to the root Android SDK. So this is the location that the Android SDK is installed in. So in my case, it's a documents folder, and in your case, it'll be wherever you installed or extracted it to. So if I just go to documents, select the Android SDK folder and select choose, it should populate without any errors. In the case of Mac and Windows platforms, the JDK path which should auto-populate itself, and in Linux you'll need to navigate to this yourself. So like before, to test to the simulator, I'm just going to create a new main stack, drag a button out, save it quickly, the desktop again, go back to standalone application settings, select Android, and then in development you should see a test target which is Android Emulator 5554, and that's just the unique name given to the Android emulator here. So if we hit test after selecting that, it should build and then eventually deploy to this emulator. It's worth noting that you're able to deploy from within LiveCode to physical devices as well. So all you need to do is connect your device to your computer, for example via USB. It should show up in the test target menu. This is assuming that you have USB development enabled and any drivers that are required for your phone to be recognized by your computer.